Today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by Eccentric, the makers of the K-Box and the new K-Pulley. Guys, flywheel training's really grown in popularity of late, and although it's something that's been around for a while, the simple reason that it's grown in popularity is because it works. We've been lucky to have a K-Box in our weight room for the past 3 years, and we've seen some really great things when it comes to improving the athlete's ability to change direction, and then looking at our return to play protocols with different lower body injuries with the student athletes. The love-hate relationship that everyone has with the K-Box is now just going to grow more with the addition of the K-Pulley. The ability to do standing presses, pulls, rip-throughs, and knee drive exercises is just going to be another arsenal to our training and another addition to the love-hate relationship that our student athletes have with the awesome tools that come from Eccentric. Go ahead and hop over to eccentric.com today to check out what they have. Guys, I can't recommend it enough, and I guarantee you won't be disappointed, not just with the products, but with the awesome customer service that Eccentric provides. Hey everybody, if you enjoy the podcast and the content that it provides, make sure you hop over and check out the all-new Strength Coach Network. The Strength Coach Network is a combination of the CVA SPS community and the Rugby Strength Coach community, bringing you what is sure to be the internet's leading resource for continuing education for strength and conditioning professionals. Combining these two resources has allowed us to bring some of the best content from some of the best minds in the world together for your one-stop shop to better improve the continuing education for not just yourself, but your entire staff. Bringing together all of the lectures from the Rugby Strength Coach community, along with the lectures exclusively done for the Central Virginia Sport Performance community, and all the lectures performed at the Central Virginia Sport Performance Seminar, make this an absolute must for performance coaches around the world. The world-class lectures at the Strength Coach Network are not all that you'll see as well. The discussion in the forums and the support and the career guidance from some of the top practitioners in the world, from people all over the world, makes this an absolute must and a great place for you to network, learn, and grow as a performance professional. So hop on over to strengthcoachnetwork.com and use the code CVASPS, that's C-V-A-S-P-S, to get your 48-hour trial for only $1. We're sure you're going to find great value in the Strength Coach Network and are really excited to have you involved. So hop on over to strengthcoachnetwork.com and use the code CVASPS to check it out today. Hello, and welcome to the podcast. Today, guys, we've got an absolutely killer talk with the University of Buffalo's Mike Snowden. After a brief little intro of how Mike got up there, we get right into, how his learning experience is starting in the Navy and then moving into each of the positions that he's been in has really had a huge impact as to how he's seeing things and implementing things and building things up there in Buffalo as the director. Mike then shares with us, how he's utilized resources not just on campus, but around town to really help benefit the student athletes they have there. And this is really, really cool because I think it's something that a lot of us have a hard time with, connecting with people within the community to help the athletes and even people across campus. It's kind of a common theme that don't always mesh great. So hearing how Mike has built this is really awesome. And then, we finish off talking about the NSCA's basketball SIG, and how they're building it and what they're trying to do with that and the work that Mike's putting in there. Guys, this is really an awesome talk. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Let's get right to it. Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you for having me, man. Been listening to you for years, so I'm glad to be here.
Well, I'm just glad that we can get two guys who spend a lot of time in Richmond, Virginia, and then more time in the state of Virginia to talk on Skype. But, and an awesome connection to the University of Richmond between the two of us as well.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Mike and how he got to Buffalo. What brought you back up north, and what do you got cooking up there?
Man, so actually met the staff here when I was at VCU. So when I was a GA at VCU, we played Buffalo. Met Nate, met Brian Hodgson, who's our one of our assistants, and from there, I don't know, something about the Buffalo program just kind of caught my eye. So I remember going back, and I would just go to the website and just check out the school and stuff like that. 2 years later, I take a job. I'm at Mason. I went back to Mason full time, and then I get a call on a Friday about a position that opened up. So I tell my fiance, Colleen, I'm like, hey, let's get in the car. We'll go spend a weekend in Buffalo. Not telling her about the interview until I got in the car and on the road. Right. So came back with a new job, moved up, and things have been awesome ever since, man. like I was talking to you about before we started, got promoted to be the director back in June. So that's been good for me to kind of take an opportunity and help, put together a program that I feel strongly about and feel positive about and feel like I'm doing a good job, from the different spots I've been before and what I've seen before, and kind of help mold it to help the athletes here.
And kind of taking each step along the way, learning under some pretty awesome people. How have you brought things with you, including your pretty long stop before you got into coaching,
Yeah.
um, to sort of build this program from the inside out when it comes to staff and the rooms and all of that thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was in the Navy for 7 years before I got into coaching, which one gave me the knowledge to want to get into strength and conditioning. I always enjoyed training and stuff like that, but had no idea you could actually do it as a profession until I was in the Navy and had a strength coach and met a strength coach there. But I think ultimately, like the organization, the detail, one, I think it helps you when you're with the athletes as far as being on time. They know to be here on time. They know to be in the same training outfit or apparel or whatever you want to call it. So whether that's black shorts and a blue top that day or whatever, I let them decide that. But they know they got to look the same. They know they got to be here before the clock strikes 8 o'clock or whatever time it is we're training. From a staffing standpoint, it's been awesome too, getting everybody on the same page. I think one thing about the military, obviously everything's uniform. So, when I first got here, it was kind of like wear whatever you want to wear. We went out, got some gear to be uniform there, Buffalo Sports Performance gear and that sort of thing. Making sure the racks were aligned a certain way, getting kids to kind of understand the importance of putting your weights back. It's one thing if you're going to use something, you don't just, use a barbell or a band, whatever, and just throw it on the floor when you get done. That was probably my biggest pet peeve and probably the biggest thing going on when I first got here, and just getting everybody on the same page with that. But I think it's been big. The athletes appreciate it at the end when they have a better space to work in. I think the staff appreciate it more when they bring recruits by, which helps the programs get better anyway. So it works for all parties involved.
And you've been involved in a pretty big build when it comes to the men's basketball program as well.
Yeah, that's been awesome. As you know, probably the biggest part of that, not probably, the biggest part of that is recruiting, right? So Coach Oates, Coach Hodgson, Weitzel, Ballman, they go out, Coach Quarles, they all go out, look for the best athletes and get them in here. My job once they get them in here is get indoctrinated to the culture of UB basketball. Coach wants tough dudes that work hard for themselves, work hard for the program, and do what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it. So again, taking what I've learned from the military, obviously they're not in the Navy or in the Army. If they want to do that, they could have gone and done that. But just some of those principles, again, being on time, being respectful when you're talking to a coaching staff, when you're out in the community dealing with people, just simple things and being a good role model for them. Obviously, we have 4 years developed as student athletes, so working my tail off to do that, whether it's the nutrition side, the training side, trying to do some sleep monitoring stuff to kind of help them out. But it really all comes down to behavior change. So that's been a big part of it, having the conversations with them.
And with part of that behavior change, you guys are working on some things when it comes to community involvement, when it comes to the nutrition of your student athletes.
Yeah, so I think one thing that I like doing is like connecting with coaches. Obviously, I met you when I first hit you up about coming up to Richmond just to see what you were doing. But we have different sponsors and stuff like that for the program, so I reach out to them just to see what they can do and help us out. Obviously, when people put together sponsorship deals, whether it's up in development or wherever, strength and conditioning isn't usually the first person or first unit thought of when they're putting together these deals. But I think it's important to reach out to whoever you have there or on campus to kind of help you out, because ultimately athletics, winning games, winning championships puts butts in the classrooms. So it's an important concept of it.
Yes, and then when we look at that, you've taken on some new interesting projects when it comes to being the director up there. So let's talk about one, where you found the necessity for these, and two, how that connection with the community has helped improve what you're able to provide for the kids you get to work with.
Yeah, so different fueling options. So we reached out to a grocery store here about being able to do some things there at a much lower price than what we could get from a lot of supplement companies or just if we were to go to the grocery store in town and pick it up ourselves. The internship program, I think, has been big for us. So when we talk about, using who's on campus for us, our Department of Exercise Science and Nutrition has been big for us. We go over there, do all our testing, whether it's the bod pod, VO2 max testing. We even have a dietetics program where we set up basically a program where dietetic students and professional, or the teachers over there would come over once a month and do some sort of talk for our student athletes. So we did it once a month in the fall. I think our first one was protein and protein timing for different athletes. And this was open to every team. The other one was on carbohydrates. We did one on supplements and kind of smart shopping for those. And then the last one was kind of just a catch-all where, the student athletes have different questions on nutrition or whatever. We kind of preach the same message all the time when it comes to that, but I just think sometimes it's good for them to hear it from a separate or an outside voice, and they sometimes take that a little bit better.
Yeah, especially when that's someone that they're going to see on campus at different events as well.
Yeah. So when we talk to them, we made it a point, we don't want this to be a once a month thing where they see you. So try to get into the weight room, and they come in and they'll shadow the weight room every now and then, not coaching or anything like that, but just kind of, meet and have a one-on-one with an athlete as they finish up. So it's a little bit more regular, and they feel a little more comfortable talking to them when they see them more often, type thing. So that's been good. It's been helping us out. I think also the internship program we got from them, they every semester I've been here, we've gotten better interns, and it's always good to go see them kind of go off and do their next thing, whatever they're excited about. It's not always, they don't always come in, I want to be a diehard strength coach, which is fine. Some of them want to get into PT school, which is big here. Do they always get in? No, but at least they have the experience to be able to kind of shape their future, whatever route they want to go.
No, I love that, especially because for so many people, something that's talked about very often is that the challenge of bringing academia in together with athletics.
Yeah, I love it. That was one of so at George Mason, it was a very solid program of that. So like Dr. Jones, she was in the lab, she was in the weight room, they were doing a ton of stuff, and it was all encompassing. So that was one of the first things I wanted to do when I got here, was get them involved. So probably my first or second week on campus, I reached out to Dr. Hostler, who's the chair of that department over there, and just wanted to see what we could do to get the ball rolling on that. So I went over there, met with them, and the testing kind of made it easiest for us. Was just, we knew we wanted to check in, and body count was important to us. So we wanted to see where we had. So that was what we started with, and it's just kind of grown from there. Looking at doing a sports performance track in their exercise science program. So that's kind of another area we're looking to grow moving forward and be a little bit more involved with there. So the interns we do get are the ones that wanted to be in strength conditioning and that sort of thing.
That's awesome. But then would you still keep it open to those kids who maybe are still looking that PT route, and maybe run it a little different for them?
Absolutely. So Gino, who's our associate director here, he runs our internship program, and him and I have sat down multiple times and kind of figuring out how we can tailor it so that, that senior who's trying to get a job or a GA position in strength and conditioning isn't getting the same thing that, Johnny, I don't know what I want to do, is doing as a sophomore or a junior. Someone who might be getting just a better understanding, learning exercise technique, as opposed to someone who's, looking to move forward and get that GA position or whatever. So trying to make it separate.
Yeah, I love that. That's something we've toyed around with here at times, but sometimes when you don't have as many options, it's harder to matriculate that way.
And as you know, it's tough recruiting volunteers to Buffalo in the fall.
I'm sure.
Yeah, you got some snow coming. It's not a tough sell, but I think obviously it helps when we win. The year the department's had has been crazy, between women's basketball going to Sweet 16, men's basketball, football winning the division, and then multiple other teams. We've had a really good year in the MAC, so it's been good.
Yeah, so now let's talk about taking that next step. We talked a little bit before that everybody always says, man, yeah, I want to be a director. Yeah, I want that title. But there's some things that come with that little word with it.
Yeah, there's a lot. So, when you're when you're an assistant at GA or whatever, you do stuff, and then you kind of don't see the behind the scenes stuff, and then you kind of peel that curtain back and change titles, and the next thing you know, you get a lot thrown at you. So, obviously, ultimately, you want to stay within that budget. I think once you get out of that, that's when you start having those conversations. But a lot of different activity. I think the biggest thing is if you make sure the student athlete's taken care of, everything else kind of falls into place. I feel like. Yeah, we don't have any more. Like right now, we're training in a room with no dumbbells. We built a new room, spent a bunch of money on a ceiling, so we don't have dumbbells. At the end of the day, I'm going to train the teams and get them better, and we'll figure out the dumbbells later. But that's just kind of where we're at. But yeah, definitely a lot of stuff comes with it.
That's awesome, man. And you're a guy that came in a different situation, having spent time in the military and then going back to school.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, because I think that another thing that people look at with the field is kind of the idea that you got to be in from 18, 19, 20, rolling all the way through. Like, how have there been some positive influences along the way that have helped kind of dispel that myth when it comes to the now director Mike Snowden?
Yeah, so I think, to be honest with you, I think, like I tell people this all the time, like if I would have going to college for me right out of high school, I probably would have just partied too much and just went back home or whatever. I think I was a lot more focused coming from the military. When it comes to the jobs and stuff like that, one, I think people who have been in the field have I don't want to say a lot more respect for you, but they understand, like, you're probably not going to be the guy that's, sick every day or have an excuse or something like that. So really, you just got to be open to work. I mean, when I was interning at Maryland with Coach Wilson, who's at Colorado now, and I mean, I was getting up at 2:30 in the morning, out of the house by 3:15. Not because I wanted to drive, an hour and a half, 2 hours to get home and then sit in 2 hours of traffic on the way back, but because I knew my end goal, what I kind of wanted to do, that was part of it. So it is what it is. I think you got to make some sacrifices and do that. But I think some people look at it as a negative because you're older, but I think, it's also a positive because you're also coming in with a lot more life experience. Good thing about me, like our head coach, 5 years ago, he was teaching math class. So he didn't have a very conventional coaching route either, which is awesome. So then we kind of connect on that same level, but, he kind of trusts me to do what I do, and it's been good.
Oates was a math teacher?
Yeah, high school math out in Michigan. Yeah, so.
Interesting. I wouldn't have guessed that.
yeah, a lot of people don't know, but you can't fool him with any numbers. He'll catch you on that quick.
I mean, now a lot of things like kind of tie together because we had those conversations about numbers with the monitoring stuff, and he was in the conversation, and there was part of me thinking like, wow, a head basketball coach is in this talk. That's kind of cool. But now that's his thing.
Yeah, that's his thing. So whether it's, he's tracking every stat, and he'll figure out your percentage on the line or whatever in about 2 seconds. So he's good, man. He crunches numbers like no other.
I love that, dude. I love that. So let's talk about that too, because you were talking about your time at Maryland. You had some really good mentors along the way. And for a guy who got in there, starts to build a new program with a new staff and a new team from the bottom up to then come from the director role, there were some great leaders that you got to learn from too. Absolutely. What are some of those lessons that you brought with you that you would say, or you get into spots and you're like, oh.
Yeah. So, man, so many of them. So, George Green, who was at Mary Washington, now at Stony Brook, I did an internship with him right when he got to Mary Washington. He was so like, the first day I got there, the conversation was, I said, hey, you looking for interns? And he was like, yeah. And then he's like, what do you got going on right now? And I'm like, nothing, I can come over. So boom, I ride over to the university. He's in there moving equipment around. So like, he gave me an opportunity to see like the ground level, almost in like that director role, because the D3 level was just him and he needed help. So he let me do whatever I needed to do to help him out. I think coming from Maryland with Coach Wilson, just like the organization was almost like the same level as the military. And I love that. So, we were turning plates. We were making sure, the number of plates on each rack, just simple things like that people don't think about that I think go overlooked, that help you really like establish your program and make it look uniform and consistent and all that stuff. Greg Golden, man, at VCU, all about the pace. Obviously, they play at a pace. We play at a pace here at Buffalo, so we train at a pace as well. And that's part of what I was talking about when I mentioned getting, used to that culture when they get here. We're on your feet when we train. We move fast. We train fast. Throughout the season, I try to get them in and out in a half hour, and that's our training session for the day. But that's probably the biggest thing I took from Greg. Obviously, Handy's been in the game for a long time in one spot, which is hard to do, but a very smart dude. And he gave me my first opportunity, him and John. Without those two, I wouldn't have my first internship there and got an opportunity to learn from them. And even John there. John does a ton behind the scenes out there. And most people know Handy because he's kind of the face of the program, but John's a smart dude and knows a lot and does a lot there, so that's been good too. But a lot of people helped me along the way, so I really appreciate them. That's one reason why I'm so passionate about the internship program here, is because I know how important those are, and what that can mean to you moving forward. I think a big part of it is also, like I said earlier, reaching out to coaches and get to know them. So when we travel in the MAC, I hit everybody up that we're going to go see what they're doing, or if I could pop in or whatever, even in the non-conference as well. But in the MAC or in your conference, you get to see a lot of these guys a little bit more regularly, which makes it easier. I know there's a good group in the A10 who's kind of shuffled around a little bit now, but it helps. That's probably the biggest thing, not being afraid to reach out to folks you haven't met and just, fire off a question if it's something you're wondering about them or how they do things. Makes sense. Worst thing they can do is not answer or say. I mean, I guess they could do worse, but whatever.
Right. But you don't see that often, right? Like, I think especially with basketball that for some reason there seems to be more and more of an openness as we've kind of progressed into almost every team having their own guy or woman working with the team, that it's like, yeah, come on in, let's rap, let's catch up. Like, knowing everybody in the league is turned into being a cool thing as opposed to like, well, you're not going to learn our secrets.
Yeah, we go have dinner together. We went to MAC tournament this year, went out and had dinner, so it was good. It was cool. And yeah, most of them are open. I've been doing some work with the NSCA and their basketball SIG, trying to get a little bit more involvement on there. One of the things the NSCA has been big about pushing would be like that Facebook page, which I feel like a lot of people aren't on Facebook these days, but that's kind of the main method for how we communicate. And it's been good to get more people involved and just kind of fire some questions off and share ideas, really.
So run down that rabbit hole a little bit too. Like, how did you get involved with that, and what are you trying to build, and what are you guys? I'm assuming Scott's involved with that as well. Like, what are you guys trying to build through that medium?
Yeah, so they oversee it. So the chair of that group, each SIG, they have the college coaches SIG, which is probably the biggest one on Facebook. I know lacrosse is huge. I think baseball is pretty big. The basketball SIG just hasn't really gained that much traction on there, but ultimately we're looking to share ideas and get better as a group. I think our area is a very unique sport, whether it's scheduling or whether it's programming. You got to be unique. Well, I don't want to say you got to be unique, but you got to be able to adapt just based on the schedule alone. But everybody does something different. If there was one right way, we'd all be doing the same thing. So there's a newsletter coming out. I think we're doing that quarterly. We should have one coming out in the next week or two. Just different meetings. They kind of figure out a way. One of the issues we run into with the NSCA is their conferences never really line up with folks that work in basketball, whether it's January or I don't even know when the other one is, but most of the time you can't get out there. I think it's August or something like that, July, August.
The coaches one is like early January, I think.
Yeah. So like just things like that, passing the word along so that we can figure out something, whether it's, piggybacking on one of the basketball conferences that are already going or starting something different to really just grow our avenue. And been working on that, trying to make it better and do different things and provide some ideas. I've been reaching out to coaches about sharing ideas. Some of the bigger names, I mean, I think there's a lot of them that have good information, but folks just aren't finding it all the time. If that makes any sense.
No, yeah, because there's definitely the ability to be kind of punch drunk when it comes to finding information online right now.
Yeah, everybody's got 10 articles on whatever, so that makes it tough. But trying to provide better resources for folks, and just share some ideas really.
No, that's awesome, man. And whatever we can do to drive things forward, we'll make sure that we put a link to that in the notes too, so people can get into that and sign up and be involved.
Awesome.
Well, listen, Mike, I appreciate the time today, man. This is fantastic, and stoked we could do this because this is
Yeah.
one we probably should have done a hot minute ago.
Yes. Thanks, man. I again appreciate you. Helped me out when I was an undergrad and all that. So it's been awesome following you and going to the conference and just getting a chance to know you and see what you're doing out there. So appreciate
Yeah,
you.
man. Hopefully, we can catch up with the Bulls staff this summer a bit.
Absolutely, man.
All right, man. Well, listen, all the best to you guys. Keep kicking butt up there in Buffalo, and we'll be in touch real soon, brother.
I appreciate you. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too, man. Cheers.
See ya.
And a huge thanks to Mike Snowden for spending the time with us today, guys, just breaking down everything that they're building out there, how they're building it, what they're looking to do. And again, not just the work he's doing at Buffalo, but what he's doing with the NSCA, with the basketball special interest group. I can't thank Mike enough for the time today and being so open, honest, and candid with his sharing and all he's doing to try to help better the field moving forward. So, Mike, keep up the awesome work, brother. Truly appreciate you and everything you're doing. And as always, guys, if you did enjoy the talk, please share it through the social media outlet of your choice, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it may be. Again, we are just trying to get the best information out to all the great coaches that we can. And as always, guys, thank you for everything that you do for us here at Central Virginia Sport Performance. We will be back next week with another awesome guest. We will see you then.